We often chase motivation, right? Feeling like we need more of it, constantly pushing harder. But what if that very drive, that powerful engine propelling us forward, could actually be our undoing? Can too much motivation, or maybe even the wrong kind, actually become harmful? Today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that, the unexpected and often hidden downsides of excessive motivation.
Yeah, we've really been digging into a stack of fascinating research for this one. We pulled together insights from brain science, explored the, well, surprising concept of toxic motivation, looked closely at how influencer culture plays a role, weighed the genuine pros and cons of drive itself, and maybe most importantly, identified concrete strategies for achieving a healthier and much more sustainable balance. Yeah.
Okay, so our mission today is to extract those crucial nuggets of knowledge, those aha moments, to help you navigate your own drive, uncover potential traps you might not even see, and ultimately find a path to truly sustainable energy and well-being. Okay, let's unpack this. So when we think about motivation, our first thought is usually, that's good, right? It's what gets us out of bed. But the research we've explored suggests it's far more nuanced than just more is better, especially when we look at it through the lens of brain science, what's actually happening in our heads when we're really driven.
That's a great question because it starts right there in the brain. At its core, motivation involves these dopamine-driven reward circuits. You might know dopamine as the feel-good chemical, but really it's more the go-get-it chemical. Its release energizes our goal-seeking behaviors, whether we're anticipating pleasure or, trying to avoid pain. It's a powerful engine, a real spark plug for action. What's truly fascinating here, though, is how our brain allocates its resources. We have pathways governing what's called proactive control, that your brain deliberately choosing to focus on a long-term goal, like planning a complex project. Then there's reactive control, which is more about impulsively responding to immediate rewards or threats, like grabbing your phone the moment it buzzes. The problem is excessive sustained focus on that proactive control really strains your prefrontal cortex.
Oh, the prefrontal cortex, that's like the brain's CEO, isn't it? The decision maker part. So if it's constantly overloaded,
Well,
what happens?
Exactly. Think of it as your brain's mission control, handling all the complex planning, focus, decision-making. If it's constantly overloaded with high motivation and sustained effort, well, it gets tired, just like any CEO would. It can actually deplete your attentional capacity over time. Makes it harder to focus when you genuinely need to.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. The Yerkes-Dodson law. I've heard about it, but it's not just a straight line up to better performance, is it? Can you really unpack that for us? What does that optimal point actually mean, and how do we even know when we've hit it, or maybe more importantly, when we've gone past it?
Yeah, absolutely not a straight line. The Yerkes-Dodson law is like a critical aha moment for anyone trying to optimize their drive. It basically states that performance improves with arousal or motivation, but only up to an optimal point. Beyond that peak, further motivation noise actually leads to a downhill spiral. You start performing worse, not better. Clear bell curve, right? Too little motivation, low performance. Too much, also low performance. Knowing when you've gone past it, usually signaled by fatigue, stress, feeling overwhelmed, that kind of thing.
Wow. So it's not just about getting tired, but actually becoming less effective. That's a huge shift in thinking for me. What does this all mean for us day to day? Because the insights we've uncovered highlight some pretty significant negative effects of pushing too hard, right?
Definitely. One major consequence is what's called directed attention fatigue. This is essentially mental exhaustion that comes from constant deliberate focus. Imagine trying to stay razor sharp for hours, no break. It leads to poor decision-making, increased irritability, and, well, more errors. It's why your brain just feels totally fried after a long, intense period of work or study. Then there's something that the research calls motivation crowds out, sometimes known as the over-justification effect. This one is fascinating because it's so counterintuitive. It's where extrinsic rewards like getting paid for a hobby you love or a trophy for something you do for pure joy can actually diminish your intrinsic drive, your internal passion.
Right. So the real nugget here is that sometimes adding that external reward actually takes away the very thing you wanted to encourage that inner passion. It's a hidden cost we rarely even think about.
Exactly. And once those external rewards stop, your engagement with the task often dips. You start thinking, I'm doing this for the reward instead of I'm doing this because I love it. And finally, there's pressure overload. When your motivation is heavily driven by external factors like a never-ending to-do list, it significantly raises your stress and cortisol levels. High cortisol then lowers dopamine and serotonin, those important feel-good and focus chemicals, which in turn hampers crucial cognitive functions like creativity, memory, your ability to learn. It
Hmm.
becomes this really destructive cycle.
Okay, so we've just seen the physical and mental toll excessive pressure can take, impacting our very brain chemistry. It really feels like this kind of relentless drive can easily tip over into something darker, something our research labels toxic motivation.
Yeah.
What does that look like in practice? What are some of the forms this takes that we should, be aware of?
Well, there are several common forms we've identified. One is toxic positivity, which is this relentless pushing to just think positive or good vibes only. Even when someone is clearly experiencing burnout or like genuine struggle, it just invalidates real problems. Another is the always be grinding or ABG culture, this nonstop hustle mentality that often leads to chronic stress and anxiety because you're constantly told you're not doing enough. We also see the negative impact of social comparisons. We're constantly seeing only the curated success stories, especially online, can cause individuals to feel deeply inadequate about their own progress. It's easy to fall into that trap. And perhaps most concerningly, there's motivation manipulated for profit, where certain individuals, especially online, sell endless motivational content or extreme self-help regimes purely for financial gain.
And it's not just theoretical. We even found voices from platforms like Reddit, where users express really raw concerns. One person noted how teenagers can have more extreme levels of dopamine that make them do all sorts of things that feel good they know they shouldn't do. That really brings home how powerful and sometimes dangerous this can be, especially for developing brains. And this ties directly into the significant role of influencer culture, doesn't it? We've really looked at how this plays out, and frankly, it's not always pretty. How does this landscape contribute to this problem of toxic motivation?
Well, it's a huge factor. Influencer culture often sets up these unrealistic ideals with its glossy, filtered posts, leading people to believe in impossible expectations for themselves. The perfect body, the perfect business, the perfect morning routine, you name it. We also see what's termed commercialized motivation, where influencers profit by kind of twisting self-improvement narratives, often with products or services embedded, sometimes not even clearly disclosed. This can subtly manipulate your drive by blurring the lines between genuine advice and, well, a sales pitch. Beyond that, there's a significant misinformation risk. We've seen instances where wellness influencers, for example, have spread false or misleading claims, even things like vaccine myths, just to boost their engagement and reach. Critics have actually described this whole dynamic as a self-sustaining system of toxicity, where constant idolizing of these figures yields emotional and maybe financial exploitation. And that sentiment is widely echoed in various online forums. People are becoming increasingly aware of the manipulation.
Right. But it's important to remember motivation isn't inherently bad, is it? It has powerful, incredible benefits, too. So if we really try to look at the pros and cons side by side, what stands out to you? What are maybe the surprising elements in that balance?
Yeah, it's a crucial distinction. On the pros side, motivation clearly fuels goal pursuit and perseverance. That's undeniable. When it's balanced, it enhances cognitive control, helping you stay on task and think clearly. It encourages personal growth, provides that positive reinforcement through mastery, and absolutely offers structure during tough phases of life, helping you get through them. However, the cons list highlights that excessive motivation may cause burnout, anxiety, and a genuine loss of meaning in what you're doing. Over-arousal directly damages focus and creativity, as we discussed with Yerka Dotson. It can diminish that intrinsic enjoyment of tasks, making them feel like a chore, and carries a high risk of obsession with external validation, needing constant praise or rewards. And ultimately, constant social comparison can profoundly undermine your self-worth. It truly is a delicate balance.
That makes perfect sense about social comparisons online. It's so easy to get sucked in. But some might argue that seeing others succeed can also be a powerful positive motivator. How do we distinguish between inspiring comparison and, damaging comparison? And that leads us to the big question for our listener. How do we harness the good without falling into these traps? How do we achieve this smarter motivation and find that optimal sweet spot you mentioned?
That's a vital distinction. Positive comparison focuses on what's possible and maybe inspires you to improve your own skills, while damaging comparison makes you feel less than and focuses on what you lack. The difference is often in your own mindset and the intention behind the content you're consuming. Our research points to 6 concrete strategies for achieving that healthier balance. First, sync intrinsic plus extrinsic. Use external rewards in ways that align with competence and genuine skill development, not just control. Like a bonus for a job well done reinforces skill, but maybe a bonus just for clocking hours might not. Second, Honor the Yerkes-Dodson sweet spot. This means truly understanding that moderate stress and motivation drive performance, but overdrive absolutely kills it. Pay attention to those signals that you're hitting the peak and maybe need to dial it back. Third, prioritize scheduled rest and nature breaks. Actively refreshing through time off or immersion in nature is crucial to combat that attention fatigue. It's not a luxury. It's really a necessity for your brain. Fourth, limit social comparisons.
Consciously detox from those motivational influencers exhibiting, glam lifestyles that just make you feel inadequate. You have to be proactive in curating your feed. Fifth, partner with purpose. Focus on intrinsic goals like growth and mastery, because these provide a much deeper meaning and satisfaction than purely external motivators like fame or just money. And finally, number 6, monitor well-being signals. Regularly watch for mood dips, burnout, or anxiety. Use these as clear signals to recalibrate your intensity or how you're connecting with your motivation style. They're like your eternal warning lights.
Yeah, I know. For me, sometimes when I'm pushing too hard, my brain just feels like it's running on dial-up internet. It's slow, fuzzy. It sounds like that's not just me being tired, but actual directed attention fatigue. So this raises an important question. Where do we see the tangible impact of this overmotivation playing out in the real world? Our sources provide some pretty compelling examples.
Oh, definitely. We see burnout in high performers constantly. Students, athletes, professionals. Under prolonged pressure, they experience significant dips in memory, decision-making skills, overall well-being. It's not just feeling tired. It's a measurable decline in cognitive function. There's also the phenomenon of athlete slumps post-contract. There's evidence showing a performance drop after receiving high rewards. Think Alex Rodriguez's famous post-signing slump in baseball. It's often linked to that diminished intrinsic drive. The game perhaps stopped being purely about the love of it and more about the money or pressure. Mental health decline is another major one. Obsession with hustle culture directly fuels anxiety, depression, sometimes a loss of identity for people who feel they're constantly chasing an impossible ideal. And then there are manipulator-led choices, where influencer hype entices unnecessary purchases, promotes disordered eating, or even spreads health misinformation, as highlighted by research from places like the University of Washington. These aren't minor side effects. They're significant real-world harms.
Wow, so this is clearly a powerful force at play in our lives, from personal well-being right through to societal trends. What does this all mean for you, the listener, in your own life? What are some immediate practical strategies you can apply right now to manage your motivation more intelligently?
Okay, practical tips. First, reassess your why. Truly ask yourself, are your actions meaningful to you, or are they primarily performance-driven for some kind of external validation? Second, set balanced goals. Make sure you're mixing personal growth-focused goals with any external rewards very carefully. Ensure the external doesn't overshadow the internal drive. Third, remember that rest is part of growth. Actively incorporate mini breaks, downtime, maybe time in nature to restore your executive function and mental clarity. It's not downtime, it's productive recovery. Fourth, curate motivational inputs. Be really selective about the content you consume online. Choose what genuinely inspires you without creating undue pressure or making you feel inadequate. Unfollow if you need to. And finally, reflect and adjust. Make regular check-ins a habit, maybe weekly, maybe daily, to spot fatigue, burnout, or stress early so you can make necessary changes before you hit that wall.
So we've taken a really deep dive into the complex world of motivation today, finding that while it can absolutely fuel us and push us to achieve incredible things, too much or the wrong kind can truly hinder our well-being and maybe ironically, even our performance.
Absolutely. The core takeaway, I think, is that motivation should both energize and preserve your well-being. It's a narrow path to walk, really. Brain science clearly warns against overload. Too much push just blunts creativity and significantly raises fatigue. We've also seen how that influencer-driven, inspired motivation often hides profit motives and can actively damage self-esteem. Ultimately, truly sustainable motivation aligns with your values, consciously includes recovery, and keeps stress in check. That's the goal.
So as you go about your week, maybe consider this. Is your motivation a gentle tailwind, propelling you forward smoothly and sustainably? Or is it more like a relentless headwind, pushing you past your optimal point, leaving you exhausted and less effective? And maybe ask yourself, what small shift can you make today to find that sweet spot for your performance and your well-being?